Welcome to the Realty Rundown, the podcast that cuts through the noise of the real estate world. Your hosts, seasoned industry experts Nick and Nate, are here to guide you through the entire process. Each week, they're breaking down the latest market trends, decoding complex jargon, and sharing insider secrets you won't find anywhere else. Whether you're buying your first home, selling a property, or building an investment portfolio, we provide the clear, actionable advice you need to make your next move your best move.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Realty Rundown from the Nick Wyse team. I'm Nick Wyse, and today I'm joined again by my co-host, Nathan Schwartz.
That's right. Good to see everyone.
Wave to the people.
Wait, which hand? Oh, yeah, there we go. That hand right there.
There you go. Guys, thanks for joining us. Today we've got episode 34 of the Realty Rundown. It's kind of a two-parter. We're going to be talking about two subjects, so we'll try and get through each of them pretty quickly, but feel that they're poignant and relevant and just a little bit different than what we've done before. So number one is going to be commercial real estate. We're going to be talking about variants or the differences between leasing or buying if you're interested in a commercial space. And we're going to use a property that I have listed right now at 1801, that's 1801 Wood Street in Elkhart, as our case study. And then we're going to bounce it over and we're going to talk about realtors' duties to clients. It's not just turning lights off and on, right? It's not just making sure the door is locked. There's a lot of duties that we have. We have code of ethics and standard of practice that we follow. And there's unfortunately some times when agents will fall short of that. So we've got some real world examples for you too.
Yeah.
So let's get started.
Yeah. Give us some background on the commercial listing on Wood Street in Elkhart.
Yeah. So it's a great property. 1801 Wood Street is a flex space. It's in kind of that East Jackson neighborhood. They're kind of on the east side of Elkhart. It's a great neighborhood space, so it's unique in that it's a commercial property that's kind of centered in a residential neighborhood. It used to be a butcher shop back in the day. It was also a catering business back in the day. And right now, it's a custom cabinetry maker, Snyder Cabinetry. And Mr. Snyder is interested in selling and moving forward with other ventures in his life. So I should say, actually, before I move on, right now, it is fully stocked and ready to be a cabinetry shop. That's what it is. And it would be, if someone's interested in that line of work, he would potentially be willing to leave or to sell the vast majority of his equipment that he's got over there. So again, it's custom cabinetry that he does. He does repairs, and then he does new installs as well. So if that's something that you or someone you know might be interested in, have them reach out to me because you're about to find out why it might be a really good idea to buy such a property as opposed to trying to lease something. So I guess, Nate, let's break down what makes sense when leasing versus buying.
Yeah. What are the advantages of leasing?
Yeah. So obviously not in every situation should somebody buy, and same thing with residential. There is a time to rent a home. I think it's not a lot of times that makes sense, but there are times. So leasing, especially in a commercial property, involves minimal upfront capital. That's money. That's your spend right up front. So minimal in the amount of, as opposed to having a down payment, you might have, a first, a last, and a security deposit. Additionally, maintenance is generally going to be handled by the owner, not always, and it depends what kind of maintenance. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But bigger ticket items, they're often handled by the landlord. But again, not always. Make sure you read your lease. And then there's flexibility to test certain markets. And what I mean by that is, if this is a startup and you've never done this before, maybe you don't want to buy something, you want to test the water, so to speak. So testing a market, seeing if this is the right location for you, sometimes leasing does make sense. And then a little more predictability with your cash flow, because you're probably not going to have any large outlays other than your monthlies and your weeklies and your salaries if you're paying employees, your utilities. It's a little bit more predictable in what you're going to have to spend every month, as opposed to if it's an ownership, there could obviously be something that goes wrong with the building, and there, as the owner, your responsibility, obviously, to pay it. So it's ideal for startups or businesses that are uncertain about long-term needs, maybe testing the market.
Yeah. So what would be the advantages of buying?
A lot. Obviously, building equity, which is the name of the game in any kind of real estate. You buy something, you own it. You're going to enjoy that property appreciation as it goes up in value. That's building savings by doing nothing. So that's the beautiful part of it. And as well, whenever you make your monthly payments, you're going to also enjoy that accumulation of equity as well. So instead of your lease going to pay the landlord's mortgage, you're going to be paying your own. You're going to be building equity in the property. You're also going to be able to qualify for certain tax deductions like depreciation. Talk to your CPA. We are not licensed certified public accountants here on the Realty Rundown. And then control modifications. And what I mean by that is basically have the ability to modify the property. A lot of times when you're looking at a lease property, it'll say owner is willing to build to suit the tenant. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do everything you want them to do. Maybe you want to move walls, maybe you want to install certain heavy equipment. Depending on your business, you may have some pretty serious equipment. You can't always do what you want to do when you lease, when you own. So that's the beauty of controlling those modifications. But it does come with those additional responsibilities. You got maintenance, you got insurance, you've got navigating financing. There's a lot that goes on.
Yeah, for sure. So in regard to Wood Street, if someone expects to stay 5 or more years and wants full control, buying could be ideal. If flexibility is key, though, and capital is light, leasing may be smarter. So putting it into real numbers and terms, you said the asking price is $185,000, I think, on that one?
Yeah, $185 on that property. Yep.
So if the typical lease rates nearby are $12 per square foot per year, how does that pencil out for a business deciding to lease or buy?
Yeah, that's great. That's a good question. So let's keep it simple. That property is a little bigger than 3,000 square foot, but we're going to call it 3,000 square foot just for the math sake here for a nice round number. So basically, again, at that $12 a square foot, which is pretty standard as far as what you're going to pay for leasing a commercial property like this. So your base monthly rent then at $12 a square foot gets divided out over a year. There's 12 months in the year, so you divide that $12 by 12 months, and then it equals about $1 per square foot per month, which is $3,000 a month in our scenario here. Often, it would be rare that it's not, but typically it's going to be what we call a triple net, or you'll see, if you're searching online, you'll see NNN, 3 capital N's. That's a triple net lease. That's going to include your taxes, your insurance, and your CAM, which is another abbreviation, stands for common area maintenance. So typically, if there's mowing that needs to be done outside, if there's painting that needs to be done on occasion, that common area maintenance is often going to be included in your lease. Read your lease. A typical placeholder like that, is you're talking about $250 a square foot per year. So that's going to be about another $625 for your common area maintenance, your taxes, your insurance, your triple net lease. So now we're up to $3,625 a month. So again, leasing can be good when you need that flexibility, but $3,625 a month versus, let's look at the price. If you buy this property, $185,000 property, again, same property, purchase price $185,000, you put down 20%, you get a loan for $148,000. Your, let's say 7.5% APR on a 25-year loan, your payments are going to be about $1,094. It's true, you're still going to owe taxes, insurance, and maintenance on those things. You're going to pay them as an owner, just like you would typically pay them on a triple net lease as a tenant. But here again, we add on that $625 a month, and the numbers are pretty staggering in favor of purchasing. If you think you're going to be there for a long period of time, you're looking more at about $1,700 versus that $3,600 a month. So just a huge difference in what you're going to be looking to expense. And again, you're going to be able to build up that appreciation and value over time, equity build up, and then control of the structure and of the place itself. And just real quick, I'm going to hit this with an investor lens. If you're thinking about, hey, maybe I just buy a property and then I'm this guy that leases it out. My payments are going to be, $1,700 a month. I can lease it out for $3,600 a month, give or take. Let's break that down real quick. So the calculation I did here is actually on a 2,000 square foot, because again, I think it makes it really, really easy to understand on here. I'm going to throw up an image for everybody real quick so they can kind of check this out. That's what we just talked about, kind of those numbers right there with the basis before the CAM is added in. They'll see the 3,000 and the nearly 1,100. But then again, on a triple net lease on a 2,000 square foot property, you're bringing in about $24,000 a year in gross rent. If it's triple net, that's again going to basically annihilate your cap. Your CAM fees, your insurance, and your taxes. And it's going to create a cap rate of $24,000 divided by the $185,000 expenditure on the property of about 13%. Good luck beating that in residential. Typically cap rates in commercial are higher. I think in part because there is a little more risk. It's maybe somewhat more difficult to find somebody to occupy the space, but the returns are obviously greater. So a 13% cap rate is fantastic. Typically right now in residential, most people would be happy to get 8, certainly thrilled to get 10. And I've seen a lot less people working with numbers that are down around 7% as a cap rate. So really, really good return on your investment. If you're looking for an investment property, give me a call. This may be an option for you as well. Nate, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. There's some more stuff that I wanted to cover on this, but I'm getting, as I usually do, a little long in the wind here. That will be no surprise to Nate or anyone who's listens frequently. But I do want to go ahead and make sure we have enough time to talk about the realtor's duties to clients and ethical violations. So we're going to totally switch gears here. We're going to get away from the commercial space. Unless you had anything else you want to interject or questions to ask.
No, you hit it all. All
right. I tend to do that, and then I hit a whole bunch of other things too on the way. I'm like a drunk driver, just hitting everything out here, right? Just running over cones. I haven't been drinking, so if it looks like I have, I haven't. So, Nate, so let's do it. Let's pivot it, man. Let's talk about these realtor responsibilities. The National Association of Realtors, of which we are a part, of which not everyone is. So, if you have hired a real estate agent, that is someone who is just licensed to sell real estate in your state. However, a realtor is someone who has basically agreed to sign on to be a realtor with the National Association of Realtors. They're also going to be a member of their state association and a local association. So they've got all this oversight looking over them and saying, here's what you can do and here's what you can't do. And if you do these things wrong, we're going to revoke your license. We're going to fine you. So it's a big no-no when we do that. So we're going to look at some examples of what happens when an agent fails.
Yeah, I was going to say, go for it. What are the examples? I'm curious.
Yeah. So I've got some, I think there's some good ones, and these are real world examples, and I'm sure, unfortunately, they've probably occurred in more than the cases that I know of them. But we're going to look at article number 1. So the Realtors Code of Ethics has a lot of articles, as we call them, and they're basically different ways that we have to transact and conduct our business. Article 1 kind of is going to look at, let's say there's an offer that was placed on a client's home, but the agent stalled in delivering that offer. So here's the scenario. Basically, you go and you look at a home with your agent, you make an offer on it. Your agent never actually sends that offer in. In the meantime, the home is still on the market. Another buyer can come in, swoop in at basically any time and make another offer. Obviously not a good situation. The other part of that would be, you're a listing agent, you receive an offer on a home and you never present it to your clients. Meanwhile, maybe your clients would have loved that offer, they would have accepted it. Those buyers are going to be like, well, I guess we're out of luck here. They continue to look, or maybe they're not even an expiration on the actual deadline for that offer. They continue to look, they find another home, they pull their offer, because you can do that at any time until it's been accepted. Nate, I know you know this. We've sometimes we have to do this on our end. It's just the reality of our situation. The buyers say, hey, this other one popped up today. We want to go look at it right away. Nate runs out, shows them the property, and they're like, we like this better. Rescind that offer. And that's a pretty quick process. We can do that really rapidly, actually, to rescind that offer and say, we're going to make an offer on this one instead. So in this situation, that's exactly what happened. A listing agent received an offer, had stalled in presenting it to his sellers. And in the meantime, the buyers moved on. They found another home. They made an offer on that. He called back and said, oh, no. We're going to accept that offer. Here it is. It's in writing. We've accepted it. Too late. We've already notified you in writing that we've rescinded the offer. You're out. These buyers are gone, and you're back on the market looking for some new buyers. So it's obviously, I think in that situation, I don't know what the agent was fined, but there was an ethics complaint that was filed. The violation can be up to $20,000 when you violate this code of ethics. So not good. You're obviously going to do that, and you're going to ruin your reputation with your clients.
Yeah. It's detrimental for sure. Are there any examples involving advertising?
Yeah. So this one is the one that I found was basically an income producing property, a multifamily rental property. So the realtor basically was throwing out all these advertisement for it, calling it a modern, remodeled high income producing property, and then chose to only show 3 very attractive units that had been remodeled, while the rest were in poor condition. Unfortunately, there was no mention of the remaining units that had never been remodeled. This was found an exaggeration in violation of Article 12, which demands truthful advertising. So another one violated.
Yeah, that's bad for business and just bad business in general. So I have to ask, have any examples of like anything local, any juicy details on local examples?
Yeah. So this one blows me away because this one actually kind of hits home. It was one that involved Remax results. We were the good guys, so hang tight. But yeah, it happened a few years ago, and it was out in LaGrange County. There were folks that made an offer on Lake House. They were working with another agency, another brokerage. They had made an offer on a lake house. It was accepted. Done deal, right? Well, Nate, what does earnest money do?
Well, pretty much well, if you don't deliver it, the deal's no more.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
There.
Yeah. So it used to be, Nate, I know this is before you, so I'm going to go back in the time machine here, but it used to be you would have to submit that earnest money with your offer. And if you didn't, that offer was floating. It was open. Now we've changed this, and I think it's a really good legislative change that we've made to say you have a set amount of days. There's no standard, although it's often 2 business days is what we'll typically do when we submit an offer. It depends on the client's situation, how fast can they get that money turned in. But it's going to say within a set amount of days, we're going to turn in that earnest money. That is going to ratify that contract. Now it is pending. Now it is locked in. Well, let me bring up an example of what this realtor did. Nate, you're going to love this when you see it later. They basically fell asleep at the wheel, as you'll see, Nate. They drove around for days with this earnest money check in their car, missing the deadline to submit the earnest money to the listing brokerage as specified on that listing contract. They missed the deadline. A broker from Remax Results reached out to the listing agent because it was still not showing as pending in the MLS. And he said, hey, what happened with that property? My clients really loved it. They obviously didn't get it. Is it still available? And that agent said, yeah, it is. They never submitted their earnest money. The Remax agent ran out there, showed the property. His people wrote an offer. It was a better offer. The buyer said, we'll take it. They accepted the offer. They had to notify this other agent when they finally woke up from their slumber. Your buyers are out because you sat around with this check in your car for days and never submitted it. So at the end of it, they were able to boot these people to the proverbial curb, and they had to go back to looking for a house. And sure, they probably did it with another agent.
Yeah, so, I was going to say.
End of the day, the Remax agent was the hero, the Joe Blow realtor, an absolute rascal. And I don't know if they're still doing the practice or not. I didn't have a lot of familiarity with them. I kind of hope they're not, or else at least I hope they've learned a very valuable lesson on that one.
Yeah. I don't understand how you could, especially I work with buyers most of the time. I don't understand how you could forget to deliver it.
And Nate does an amazing job. A lot of people, and I used to be pretty guilty at this, quite honestly, would be like, hey, I need you to take your earnest money over and you drop it off at the brokerage. Nate goes the extra step and makes sure that it's there. And almost every time Nate will actually personally deliver that earnest money for you.
Unless my schedule prevents me from doing it, I'll do it myself. And then if I'm tied up, I'll just have the client do it. But I like to do it myself just because sometimes I'm a control freak. And if I do it, I know it was delivered. So
that's it. Yeah, we're not going to get ourselves in any trouble. And then we've also got our amazing transaction coordinator, Shelly Solinger, who helps us when we get an offer accepted. She kind of steps in and goes hand in hand with us to make sure everything is hitting the timelines that it's supposed to be hitting. So she's right there as well. So here at the Nick Wyse team, we are not going to let that happen. You're not going to lose your lake house over in LaGrange. We're going to get it for you.
I'll do a quick recap on everything.
Get in there, Nate.
So again, back towards leasing. So leasing gives flexibility with low upfront costs. My apologies. Leasing is often best in early business stages. Buying builds equity and control, but requires long-term commitment. And whether commercial or residential real estate agents must always put clients first, maintain honesty in advertising, and preserve consumer trust, which is what we do here. So
that's exactly right. We're your fiduciary. We are acting in your best interest at all times. If we're not, fire us before we get fined.
Right.
We just don't do it. We don't mess around. That's us here at the Nick Wyse team. So Nathan, thank you for that recap. Again, if you're looking for a commercial property, guys, 1801 Wood Street in Elkhart is a beautiful property. I feel like it's priced very reasonably with the large amount of space that you've got. You've also got a full basement there if you need it for storage. There's actually already some utilities and appliances in there, like a walk-in freezer, cooler, like a 3-compartment sink. There's stuff there. So check it out. It's online. You can find it online. You can see the 3D virtual diagram and take a 3D virtual tour if you want to check it out. If you can't find it, call us. We'll send it over to you. Nate, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah. That's it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us on episode 34 of the Realty Rundown. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this with all your wonderful friends. And until we get to on the next time, thanks for joining us. Nick knows, get wise replies.
Rundown, let's go. break it down. Nick and Nate, run the town. Realty rundown, it's going down. Realty rundown, let's break it down. Nick and Nate, run the town.